Wealthy alien girl dresses as beggar to discover genuine kindness. Alana Vixmira gazed at her reflection in the ornate mirror, barely recognizing herself beneath the layers of artificial grime. Her naturally smooth sky blue skin, now deliberately smudged with dirt, looked weathered and neglected. The deep crimson tint of her eyes remained unchanged, the one feature she couldn't disguise without specialized contact lenses, which would defeat the purpose of her experiment. Her luxurious silver-white hair, normally flowing like liquid moonlight over her shoulders, had been tangled and matted with careful precision. "Is Madam certain about this endeavor?" Her household AI, Pax, hovered nearby, its voice modulated to convey concern without overstepping its programming. "Absolutely certain," Anna replied, tugging at the deliberately torn edges of her coarse brown dress, a far cry from the exquisite fabrics that normally graced her aristocratic form. "The Vixmira fortune buys me everything except honesty, Pax. I'm suffocating in this bubble of privilege." She turned from the mirror, surveying her lavish penthouse apartment that crowned the tallest spire in Nexus Prime, the gleaming intergalactic capital where species from across the known universe conducted commerce and diplomacy. From her windows, the city sprawled beneath her, a dazzling array of lights and movement, the arteries of commerce pumping wealth through the metropolis. My father's associates smile and bow, but their eyes calculate my worth in credits. My suitors desire my family name, not me, she sighed, slipping her feet into scuffed, worn shoes. I need to know if genuine kindness still exists in this universe, or if everything is just transactional. Pax's illuminated core pulsed with reluctant acceptance. "The security protocols are disabled for 12 hours, Alana finished. "If I'm not back by then, you may alert security, but not before." "That's a direct command." "As you wish, madam. May I suggest taking at least a compact emergency beacon?" Alana shook her head. "No safety nets, Pax. That would defeat the purpose. A real beggar has no emergency beacon." With a final glance at her unrecognizable reflection, Alana activated the service elevator, a route never used by the elite residents, and began her descent to the streets below. Her heart raced with nervous excitement. For the first time in her 26 years, she would experience life without the protective shield of the Vixmira name and fortune. The elevator doors opened onto a service alley, and immediately the assault on her senses began. The air was thicker here, laden with the aromas of street food, industrial exhaust, and too many bodies in too little space. The cacophony of voices, engines, and machinery created a wall of sound that momentarily disoriented her. Taking a deep breath, Alana stepped into the flow of pedestrians on the main thoroughfare. Beings of all species hurried past, elegant Thraxi with their multiple limbs gesturing as they spoke into communication devices. Hulking Boreth merchants hawking wares from hovering carts. And everywhere, the varied forms of the Nexus natives, the blue-skinned Azorians like herself. She hunched her shoulders, adopting the posture of someone who expected to be overlooked, and made her way toward the central plaza, the heart of Nexus Prime's commercial district. There she found a spot near a popular eatery and sat cross-legged on the pavement, extending her hand in the universal gesture of supplication. "Spare some credits?" she asked a passing Azorian businessman, her voice deliberately roughened. The man barely glanced at her before quickening his pace. This pattern repeated throughout the afternoon, indifference at best, disgust at worst. A group of young Azorian males in expensive attire laughed as they passed, one flicking a food wrapper that landed in her lap. "Get a job, blue trash," one called back, eliciting more laughter from his companions. Hours passed. The artificial sun of Nexus Prime began its programmed descent, casting long shadows across the plaza. Alana's back ached from sitting on the hard pavement, and her stomach growled with hunger. Not a single credit had been placed in her outstretched hand. Not one word of kindness had been offered. Maybe this was a mistake, she murmured to herself, watching as the evening crowd began to thin. The experiment had proven her suspicions correct, but the confirmation brought no satisfaction, only a hollow ache in her chest. As she prepared to abandon her post and return to her penthouse, the heavy tread of boots made her look up. A tall, broad-shouldered figure stopped directly in front of her. Unlike the Azorians with their blue skin, this being had a warm, tan complexion. His features were strong and defined, with a straight nose, firm jaw, and eyes the color of amber. A human, one of the rarer species in Nexus Prime, known for their military prowess and unpredictable nature. He wore the distinctive armor of the Terran peacekeeping force, black with red accents, bearing the insignia of Earth's unified military. His dark hair was cut short in military fashion, and a day's stubble shadowed his jaw. But what caught Alana's attention was not his imposing presence, but the object in his extended hand, a perfectly ripe red apple. "Why do you look so sad?" he asked, his voice deep but gentle. "Take this. You need to eat." Stunned by this unexpected kindness, Alana hesitated before slowly reaching for the fruit. Their fingers brushed briefly, and she was surprised by the warmth of his skin. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice suddenly authentic in its gratitude. The human crouched down to her level, balancing easily on the balls of his feet. "I'm Matthew," he said simply. "Matthew Holland, huh?" "Alana," she replied, forgetting for a moment that she should have used a false name. He smiled, and the expression transformed his serious face, crinkling the corners of his eyes. "Well, Alana, it's getting dark, and these streets aren't safe after hours. Is there somewhere I can escort you?" For a moment, Alana was tempted to reveal everything, to thank him properly for being the one person in this vast city who had shown her kindness without expectation. But something held her back. This experiment had barely begun, and she found herself curious about this human who had broken through the barrier of indifference. I don't really have anywhere," she said, the half-truth sticking in her throat. Matthew frowned, his amber eyes scanning the darkening plaza. "That won't do," he said decisively. "There's a shelter in the Eastern Quarter. It's clean, safe, and they don't ask questions. Will you let me take you there?" Alana looked at the apple in her hand, then back at the human's face, open, concerned, and utterly without guile. In that moment, she made a decision that would alter the course of her carefully planned life. "Yes," she said, "I'd appreciate that." The Eastern Quarter of Nexus Prime transformed as night fell, holographic advertisements casting multicolored shadows across the faces of those hurrying home. Matthew walked beside Alana, his tall frame creating a protective barrier between her and the bustling crowd. She found herself studying him from the corner of her eye, the confident set of his shoulders, the alertness in his gaze as he scanned their surroundings. "You're not from Nexus, are you?" she asked, biting into the apple he'd given her. The sweet juice burst across her tongue, making her realize how hungry she truly was. Matthew shook his head. "Earth-born and raised. Montana, big sky country, we call it." A small smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Nothing like this concrete jungle." "What brought you here?" Alana asked, genuinely curious. Humans were relatively rare in Nexus Prime, their homeworld being notoriously protective of its sovereignty. "Peacekeeping rotation, 6 months on, 3 months off." He gestured to his armor. "The Terran peacekeeping force has treaties with 17 systems now, including yours." They turned down a narrower street, the crowd thinning. Alana noticed 3 draconian males lounging against a wall ahead, their scaled skin gleaming under the artificial lights. Their predatory eyes tracked Matthew with unmistakable hostility. "Human," one of them hissed, pushing away from the wall. "Your kind doesn't belong here." Matthew's posture shifted subtly, feet wider, center of gravity lower. "Just passing through," he said evenly, placing a hand on Alana's back to guide her behind him. "With Azorian trash," another draconian sneered, his forked tongue flicking out. "Maybe we should teach you both some manners." The third draconian circled around, blocking their retreat. "That armor won't help you now, human." Everything happened in seconds. The first draconian lunged, claws extended. Matthew moved with startling speed, sidestepping and using the attacker's momentum to slam him face first into the wall. The second attacker drew a vibroblade, its edge humming with energy. Without thinking, Alana dropped into the defensive stance drilled into her by her father's security chief. When the third draconian grabbed for her, she executed a perfect counter, twisting his arm and using his weight against him. He hit the ground with a surprised grunt. Matthew dispatched the knife wielder with 2 precise strikes, then turned to find Alana standing over her subdued attacker. His eyebrows rose in surprise. "Where does a beggar learn combat moves like that?" he asked, not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity. Alana's mind raced. "I wasn't always on the streets," she said, the half-truth coming easily. "Let's go before they get up." They hurried away, turning down several side streets until Matthew seemed satisfied they weren't being followed. The shelter loomed ahead, a repurposed warehouse with warm lights glowing from its windows. "You handled yourself well back there," Matthew said as they approached the entrance. "Military training?" "Something like that," Alana murmured, then changed the subject. "You mentioned shipping out tomorrow?" Matthew nodded, holding the door open for her. "Frontier Patrol, 3-week rotation along the verge." The shelter's interior was simple but clean, rows of cots separated by privacy screens, a communal dining area, and washing facilities. A matronly human woman greeted them, her gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. "Matthew Holland, as I live and breathe," she said warmly. "Been a while since you dropped by." "Evening, Mrs. Brewer. This is Alana. She needs a place for the night." Mrs. Brewer's kind eyes assessed Alana without judgment. "Of course, dear. Come with me." As Mrs. Brewer led Alana to an empty cot and provided basic toiletries, Matthew lingered nearby. When the older woman moved away, he approached Alana again. "Listen," he said, his voice lower. "I know there's more to your story than you're telling me, and that's fine. We all have our secrets." His amber eyes held hers steadily. "But if you need anything while I'm gone, Mrs. Brewer can get a message to me." The sincerity in his voice made something twist in Alana's chest. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Matthew considered this, then shrugged. "My father always said, humanity's greatest strength is that we look out for each other. I figure that should extend to everyone, not just other humans." He smiled, the expression warming his features. "Besides, there was something in your eyes. Not defeat, determination. I respect that." Alana felt her cheeks warm, the blue of her skin deepening slightly. "Thank you. For everything." An awkward silence fell between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. Alana found herself acutely aware of his proximity, the subtle scent of him, clean sweat, and something distinctly earthy that must be uniquely human. "I should go," Matthew said finally, though he made no move to leave. "Early departure tomorrow." "The verge is dangerous," Alana said, surprising herself with her concern. "Be careful out there." His smile turned crooked. "Worried about me already?" The teasing note in his voice sent a pleasant shiver down her spine. "Maybe I am," she replied, matching his tone. Matthew reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of silver-white hair behind her ear. The gentle touch of his fingers against her skin sent a jolt of awareness through her body. "I'll be back in 3 weeks," he said softly. "Maybe I could find you then. Take you somewhere nicer than this?" Alana knew she should refuse. In 3 weeks, this experiment would be long over, and she would be back in her penthouse, surrounded by the trappings of her privileged life. Yet looking into his earnest face, she couldn't bring herself to close this door. "I'd like that," she whispered. His fingers lingered against her cheek for a moment longer before he reluctantly stepped back. "Good night, Alana. Stay safe." As she watched him walk away, Alana realized with startling clarity that she didn't want him to go. The thought of returning to her empty penthouse, to the hollow social rituals of her class, suddenly seemed unbearable compared to the genuine connection she'd found with this human stranger. For the first time in her life, Alana Vixmere had no idea what would happen next, and found she rather liked the feeling. 3 days after meeting Matthew, Alana settled into a strange new routine. By day, she returned to her penthouse, resuming her role as heiress to the Vixmere fortune. By evening, she donned her beggar's disguise and returned to the Eastern Quarter, learning more about the hidden struggles of Nexus Prime's underclass. "You've returned, Miss Alana," Mrs. Brewer noted with a gentle smile as Alana entered the shelter on the 3rd evening. "I wasn't sure we'd see you again." "I wanted to help," Alana said, setting down the bags of food she'd purchased, anonymously from her family's accounts. As she helped distribute meals, Alana's thoughts drifted to Matthew. The memory of his touch lingered on her skin, the warmth of his fingers against her cheek more intoxicating than any luxury she'd known. She wondered where he was now, patrolling the dangerous frontier of known space. Her musings were interrupted by a commotion at the shelter's entrance. 3 Azorian officials in crisp uniforms strode in, their expressions cold and dismissive. "Inspection," announced the leader, a portly male with elaborate facial markings denoting high bureaucratic rank. "This facility has been reported for code violations." Mrs. Brewer stepped forward. "We've passed every inspection, Commissioner Drav." "Our permits are current," the commissioner sneered. "New regulations. This building has been rezoned for commercial development." He thrust a datapad at her. "You have 30 days to vacate." Alana watched from the shadows, recognizing the commissioner as one of her father's business associates. This was no routine inspection. It was a land grab targeting the vulnerable. After the officials left, Alana approached Mrs. Brewer. "Has this happened before?" The older woman sighed. "They've been trying to push us out for months. This area is becoming valuable, and the homeless don't fit their vision for Nexus Prime." She smiled sadly. "Matthew has been our strongest advocate. Without him," Alana made a decision. "I may know someone who can help." The next morning, in her true identity, Alana arranged a meeting with Commissioner Drav, leveraging her family name to secure an immediate appointment. "Miss Vix Mira," he gushed, all obsequious smiles. "What an unexpected pleasure." "I understand you're rezoning the Eastern Quarter," she said, accepting the offered refreshment with practiced grace. "Indeed, a marvelous opportunity for investors such as your father." "Including the shelter?" His smile faltered slightly. "A regrettable necessity for progress." "I see," Alana set down her glass. "My father would be interested in maintaining that particular property as a charitable endeavor. A tax benefit, you understand." The commissioner's expression soured. "There are complications." "I'm sure they can be resolved," Alana replied smoothly. "Unless you'd prefer I discuss the matter directly with the planetary governor." "We're attending the same gala next week." By the time she left his office, Alana had secured a temporary reprieve for the shelter. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it bought time. That evening, as she made her way back to the Eastern Quarter in her beggar's disguise, the hairs on the back of her neck prickled. Someone was following her. Ducking into an alley, she pressed herself against the wall and waited. Moments later, a draconian slipped into view, one of the 3 from the night Matthew had rescued her. "Thought you could hide, Blue Girl?" he hissed, his scaled face twisted in a sneer. "Saw you today, all cleaned up at the commissioner's office. Playing both sides, are we?" Alana's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't insult me." He moved closer, the light catching on something metallic in his hand. "The question is, what's a Vix Mira heiress doing, slumming with humans and beggars? Your father would pay handsomely to know, I bet." Alana calculated her options. She could take him in a fair fight. Her training had been thorough, but the confined space of the alley gave him the advantage. "What do you want?" she asked, buying time. "For starters, whatever credits you're carrying." His forked tongue flicked out. "Then we'll discuss your human boyfriend, Matthew." "What about him?" The draconian's lips pulled back in a reptilian smile. "My associates on the verge would be interested to know a Terran peacekeeper has connections to the Vix Mira family. Might make him a valuable target." Fear, cold and sharp, sliced through Alana. "If you touch him, you'll what?" The draconian laughed. "Run to daddy? Explain why you care about some human grunt?" Before Alana could respond, a shadow detached itself from the deeper darkness of the alley. A figure slammed into the draconian from behind, driving him face first into the wall. The reptilian went limp, sliding to the ground unconscious. "You okay, miss?" A human woman in civilian clothes stood over the fallen draconian, her stance unmistakably military. "Yes," Alana managed, heart racing. "Thank you." The woman nodded. "Lieutenant Catherine Schultz, Terran Peacekeeping Force. You should be more careful in these parts." She studied Alana's face. "You're the one Matthew mentioned, aren't you?" The Azorian girl from the shelter. Alana hesitated, then nodded. "Thought so. He asked me to check in on you while he's away." Catherine glanced down at the unconscious draconian. "Good thing I did." What did this scum want? "He recognized me," Alana admitted. "I'm not who Matthew thinks I am." Catherine's expression remained neutral. Matthew is a good judge of character. Whatever your story is, he saw something worth protecting. She gestured toward the shelter. Let's get you somewhere safe, then you can decide how much you want to tell me. At the shelter in a private corner, Alana told Catherine a version of the truth, that she came from privilege but wanted to understand life beyond her protected bubble. She had omitted her family name and the extent of her wealth. And now this draconian is threatening Matthew because of me, she finished. Catherine considered this. The draconians have been causing trouble along the verge for months. Intelligence suggests they're working with someone higher up in Nexus Prime, targeting humans specifically. She fixed Alana with a penetrating gaze. If you have connections that could help protect Matthew and our other peacekeepers, now's the time to use them. Alana nodded slowly. I'll do whatever I can. Later that night, lying on her cot at the shelter, she'd decided staying there was safer than returning to her penthouse. Alana stared at the ceiling, thinking of Matthew. In just one brief encounter, he'd shown her more genuine concern than she'd experienced in years among her own kind. The thought of him in danger because of her made her chest tight with an unfamiliar emotion. She realized with startling clarity that she was falling for him, this human who'd offered kindness without agenda, who'd seen value in her when she appeared to have nothing. For the first time in her life, Alana understood what it meant to care for someone beyond herself. Tomorrow she would begin using her resources to protect him, even if it meant eventually revealing her deception. Some truths were worth the risk. Over the next 2 weeks, Alana lived in a constant state of vigilance. By day, she leveraged her family connections to investigate Commissioner Drav, discovering financial transactions linking him to draconian crime syndicates operating along the verge. By night, she remained at the shelter, both to maintain her cover and because she genuinely came to care for the people there. Lieutenant Schultz became an unexpected ally, sharing what limited information she could about Matthew's mission. His patrol was redirected to the Krell sector, she told Alana one evening. Communications are spotty, but last we heard, they were tracking draconian smugglers. Alana's stomach knotted with worry. The Krell sector was notorious for its lawlessness, the perfect place for an ambush. Her fears materialized into reality when Catherine burst into the shelter 3 days before Matthew's scheduled return, her face grim. Matthew's squad was attacked, she said without preamble, pulling Alana aside. 3 dead, 2 missing. Matthew is wounded, but managed to get a distress signal out. The world seemed to tilt beneath Alana's feet. Is he alive? Last we heard, a rescue team is being assembled, but there's a problem. Catherine's expression hardened. Someone leaked their patrol route. The ambush was too well coordinated to be chance. Commissioner Drav, Alana whispered. Catherine's eyes narrowed. You know something? Alana made a split-second decision. I need to show you something, but not here. An hour later, they stood in Alana's penthouse. Catherine's expression a mixture of shock and growing understanding as Alana revealed her true identity. You're Alana Vixmira, the shipping heiress? Yes. Alana activated her secure terminal, displaying the financial records as she'd uncovered. Commissioner Drav has been taking payments from a shell corporation I traced back to the Draconian Syndicate. They're targeting human peacekeepers specifically, and I believe they're planning something bigger. Catherine studied the data, her military training evident in her quick assessment. This is solid intelligence, but why the charade? Why pretend to be homeless? Alana's cheeks darkened with embarrassment. I wanted to see if genuine kindness still existed. My world is artificial. Everyone wants something from me. She met Catherine's gaze directly. Matthew was the first person in years to show me kindness without agenda. Understanding dawned in Catherine's eyes. You care for him more than I thought possible, Alana admitted, and now he's in danger because of me? Not because of you, Catherine corrected, because of corrupt officials and criminals. But with this evidence, we can help him. She tapped her communication device. I need to get this to command immediately. The rescue team deploys in 6 hours. I'm coming with you, Alana said firmly. Catherine shook her head. Absolutely not. This is a military operation. My family owns 3 stealth-class vessels currently docked in Nexus Prime. Faster than anything your rescue team has access to. Alana's crimson eyes flashed with determination. And I have combat training. I can help. After a tense negotiation, Catherine reluctantly agreed to include Alana in the rescue operation, not as an active combatant, but as a resource provider and secondary navigator familiar with the Krell sector's treacherous asteroid fields. As they prepared to depart, Alana received an urgent message from her household AI Pax. Madam, Commissioner Drav is attempting to accelerate the shelter closure. Armed enforcers are scheduled to evict all residents tomorrow morning. He's tying up loose end, Catherine muttered, making his move while we're distracted with the rescue. Alana's mind raced. Mrs. Brewer and the others won't stand a chance. She turned to her communication terminal. Pax, activate Protocol Safe House. Authorization VIX Mira Alpha 7. Protocol activated, madam. Transport and security teams dispatched. To Catherine's questioning look, Alana explained, My family maintains emergency evacuation protocols for our employees. I've just extended that protection to everyone at the shelter. They'll be moved to a secure location before Drav's enforcers arrive. Catherine's expression softened with newfound respect. You're full of surprises, Vix Mira. 6 hours later, they boarded Alana's personal vessel, the Crimson Dawn, a sleek, state-of-the-art ship disguised as a standard merchant freighter. The rescue team, composed of 5 human peacekeepers, including Catherine, regarded Alana with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. We'll reach the Krell sector in 17 hours, Elan informed them as the ship broke Nexus Prime's atmosphere. Faster than your military transport would have managed. Let's just hope we're not too late, Catherine replied, her focus already on the mission briefing. As the stars streaked past the viewports, Alana found herself standing alone in the ship's observation deck, her thoughts consumed by Matthew. The memory of his smile, the gentle touch of his fingers against her cheek, the warmth in his amber eyes, all of it haunted her. The possibility of losing him before she could explain herself, before she could explore the connection between them, was unbearable. Hold on, Matthew, she whispered to the void of space. I'm coming for you. She didn't hear Catherine approach until the lieutenant was beside her, gazing out at the star-strewn darkness. He talked about you, Catherine said quietly, during our comm checks. Kept asking if I'd checked on the blue girl with the fierce eyes. She glanced at Alana. He's going to be surprised when he finds out who you really are. Alana's heart constricted. Do you think he'll hate me for lying? Catherine considered this. Matthew values honesty, but he also understands complexity. He'll be hurt, but... She shrugged. He's also the most forgiving human I know, and he's clearly smitten with you, title or no title. A small spark of hope kindled in Alana's chest. I never meant to deceive him. Not really. I just wanted to be seen for myself, not my family name. Then make sure you get the chance to tell him that, Catherine said, her voice taking on the crisp tone of a military officer once more. Get some rest. Tomorrow we find our people and bring them home. As Catherine left, Alana remained at the viewport, watching the stars blur past. For the first time in her life, she was risking everything. Her safety, her reputation, potentially even her family's standing. For something beyond herself. For someone who had shown her that kindness without expectation was not only possible, but transformative. Whatever awaited them in the Krell sector, Alana knew with absolute certainty that she would face it without hesitation. For Matthew, for the man who had changed her understanding of what it meant to be truly seen. The Krell sector loomed before them, a chaotic sprawl of asteroids, abandoned mining stations, and lawless outposts. The Crimson Dawn slipped between the floating debris with preternatural grace, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible to conventional scanners. We've pinpointed the distress signal, Catherine announced, studying the tactical display. It's coming from an old draconian mining facility on asteroid KX-397. Alana leaned over the display, her silver-white hair falling forward. That's deep in Syndicate territory. Security will be tight. Which is why we're not going in guns blazing, Catherine replied. Stealth insertion, 2 teams. Alpha team creates a diversion as their communication array, while Beta team extracts our people. I'm going with Beta, Alana said firmly. Catherine hesitated, then nodded. Your ship, Your call, but you follow my orders once we're groundside. As they approached the asteroid, Alana suited up alongside the human peacekeepers. The tactical armor felt strange against her skin, heavier than the training gear she was accustomed to, but reassuringly solid. Her fingers traced the emergency blade strapped to her thigh, a family heirloom she'd insisted on bringing. 5 minutes to insertion, the pilot's voice crackled through the comm. Catherine approached, checking Alana's equipment with practiced efficiency. Remember, our priority is extraction. We get our people and get out. Understood. The Crimson Dawn settled into a natural crevice on the asteroid's dark side, its hull barely distinguishable from the surrounding rock. Alpha Team departed first, moving silently toward the facility's communication array. 10 minutes later, Beta Team, Catherine, Alana, and 2 other peacekeepers made their approach to the main complex. Security breach in Sector 7. The draconian announcement blared through external speakers as Alpha Team's diversion took effect. Guards rushed toward the disturbance, leaving their path relatively clear. They moved through the facility service tunnels, encountering only minimal resistance. Catherine dispatched 2 draconian guards with silent efficiency, her movements economical and lethal. Alana found herself admiring the human's combat prowess, so different from the formal techniques she'd been taught, yet undeniably effective. Detention block ahead, Catherine whispered. Life signs indicate 2 humans and 4 draconian guards. Alana's heart pounded. Matthew was just beyond that door. The rescue unfolded with surgical precision. Flash grenades disoriented the guards, and the peacekeepers neutralized them before they could recover. Alana rushed to the cell controls, her fingers flying over the unfamiliar interface. The force fields deactivated, revealing 2 figures huddled in separate cells. One was a young human woman, battered but defiant. The other, Dash. Matthew, Alana breathed. He looked up, his face bruised, a makeshift bandage wrapped around his torso. Despite his injuries, his eyes widened in recognition. Alana? Confusion and disbelief warred on his face. What the hell are you doing here? Before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Alpha Team's been compromised, Catherine reported grimly. We need to move. Now. They helped the injured peacekeepers to their feet. Matthew winced but remained steady, his military training evident in his disciplined movements despite obvious pain. There's something you need to know, he said urgently as they made their way back through the tunnels. This isn't just about smuggling. They're planning to attack the Peace Summit on Nexus Prime. Some Azorian official is helping them. Commissioner Drav, Alana confirmed. We know. But we need to get you out of here first. They were halfway to the extraction point when disaster struck. A heavy security door slammed shut, cutting their group in half. Catherine and the other peacekeeper were trapped on one side with the rescued female officer. Alana and Matthew on the other. Find another route. Catherine's voice crackled through the comm. We'll meet at the ship. Before they could move, draconian forces converged from both directions, trapping them in the narrow corridor. Leading them was the same draconian who had threatened Alana in the alley, now wearing the insignia of a syndicate lieutenant. The Vix Mira heiress, he hissed with malicious pleasure, and her human pet. How convenient. Matthew's head snapped toward Elena, shock evident in his expression. Vix Mira? As in the shipping dynasty? The draconian laughed. She didn't tell you? Your beggar girl owns half of Nexus Prime. His forked tongue flicked out. Drop your weapons or watch your human die slowly. Alana assessed their options. The corridor offered no cover, and Matthew was already injured. Reluctantly, she lowered her weapon. Smart girl, the draconian sneered. Now, let's discuss terms. Your family's shipping codes would be valuable to us. Provide them, and perhaps we'll be merciful. Don't tell them anything, Matthew growled, his stance protective, despite his injuries. The draconian struck him across the face. Silence, human. Something snapped inside Alana at the sight of Matthew's blood. In one fluid motion, she drew her family blade and lunged, catching the draconian by surprise. The ancient weapon slid between his scales with practiced precision, finding the vulnerable spot beneath his jaw. Chaos erupted. Matthew, despite his wounds, moved with startling speed, disarming the nearest guard and using the confiscated weapon to create a path forward. Together, they fought their way through the surprised Draconians, Alana's formal combat training complementing Matthew's raw battlefield experience. They reached an emergency airlock, sealing it behind them just as reinforcements arrived. Matthew leaned against the wall, breathing heavily, his amber eyes fixed on Alana with an unreadable expression. "Vix Mira," he said flatly, "you lied to me." "Not about everything," she replied, her voice small. "Not about what matters." A bitter laugh escaped him. "And what exactly was real? The helpless beggar act? Was I just some experiment in slumming it with the lower classes?" "No!" The vehemence in her voice seemed to surprise him. "I wanted to know if genuine kindness still existed. Everyone in my world wants something from me. My money, my family connections, my status. You were the first person in years to see me, just me, and show kindness without agenda." Matthew's expression softened slightly, but wariness remained. "So the shelter, the combat skills, all of it was... The shelter was real. I've been helping them. The combat training is courtesy of my father's paranoia about kidnapping." She met his gaze directly. "I never meant to hurt you, Matthew. I didn't know how to tell you the truth once I started caring about you." Before he could respond, Catherine's voice crackled through their comms. "Beta team, what's your status? We're at the ship with Corporal Brewer." "Heading to extraction point via maintenance shaft 12B, Matthew replied automatically, his eyes never leaving Alana's face. "ETA, 7 minutes." "Copy that. Be advised, facility defenses are activating. Hurry." They moved in tense silence through the maintenance shaft, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. As they neared the exit, Matthew suddenly pulled Alana into a small alcove, his body shielding hers as a patrol passed. The closeness was electric. Despite his injuries, despite his anger, Alana felt the unmistakable current between them, the same connection that had sparked when he'd offered her that apple on the streets of Nexus Prime. "Why did you really come for me?" he asked, his voice low, his face inches from hers. "Because I couldn't bear the thought of losing you," she admitted. "Because you showed me kindness when no one else would, and that changed everything." For a heartbeat, the universe narrowed to just the two of them. Blue skin against tan, crimson eyes meeting amber. Then Matthew leaned forward, his lips capturing hers in a kiss that spoke of relief, anger, desire, and something deeper that neither was ready to name. When they broke apart, breathless, Matthew's expression had transformed, determination replacing hurt. "We'll finish this conversation later," he promised. "Right now, we have a peace summit to save." The crimson dawn burst from the asteroid field, engines straining as 3 Draconian pursuit vessels locked onto their tail. In the ship's medical bay, Matthew winced as Catherine applied regenerative gel to his wounds. "They're jamming our long-range communications," Alana reported, entering the medical bay. "We can't warn Nexus Prime about the attack." "How long until we reach the station?" Catherine asked, sealing Matthew's bandage. 6 hours at maximum speed. The peace summit begins in 8. Matthew pushed himself upright, ignoring the protest from his ribs. "We need to transmit the evidence we have. The Draconians are planning to detonate explosives during the human delegation's address, then blame it on Azorian extremists. Triggering a diplomatic crisis, possibly even war," Alana finished. "And with Commissioner Drav's help, they'll use the chaos to seize control of key shipping lanes. Including your families," Matthew noted, his tone carefully neutral. An uncomfortable silence fell between them. Catherine glanced from one to the other, then tactfully excused herself to check on the other rescued officer. Alone, Alana approached Matthew cautiously. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got worked over by Draconian interrogators," he replied dryly. Then, seeing her expression, his tone softened. "I'll live. Thanks to you." "Matthew, about what happened, what I didn't tell you." He held up a hand. "I've had some time to think. I understand why you did it." A wry smile touched his lips. "Can't say I wouldn't be curious too, if I'd grown up surrounded by people who only saw my family name." Relief washed through her. "So you don't hate me?" "Hate you." He laughed, then winced at the pain it caused. "Alana, you risked everything to save me. That's not the action of someone playing games." His amber eyes held hers. "I'm still processing the whole secret heiress thing. But the woman who fought beside me back there, that's who I care about. Title or no title." The ship lurched suddenly, throwing Alana forward. Matthew caught her, his strong arm steadying her against his chest. For a moment they stayed frozen in the embrace, the heat of his body seeping through the thin medical gown he wore. "Proximity alert!" The pilot's voice broke the spell. "They're gaining on us." Reluctantly, they separated. "We should get to the bridge," Alana said, her voice slightly breathless. The situation on the bridge was grim. The draconian vessels were faster than anticipated, armed with military-grade weapons that shouldn't have been available to mere smugglers. "We can't outrun them," the pilot reported, "and our stealth systems are compromised." "What about the Veil?" Alana suggested. "We could lose them there." Catherine looked alarmed. "The Veil is a navigational nightmare, and no sane pilot would risk it." "Exactly why they won't follow us," Matthew said, catching Alana's strategy. "And it could put us within short-range communication distance of the Terran outpost on Helios Minor." The Veil, a dense cloud of cosmic dust and radiation that distorted sensors and communications, loomed ahead like a shimmering curtain across the stars. The crimson dawn plunged into its swirling depths, the pursuing ships hesitating at its boundary before two reluctantly followed. Inside the Veil, visibility dropped to near zero. The ship's systems flickered as radiation interfered with their functions. Alana took manual control, her hands steady on the navigation console. "You know how to pilot through this?" Matthew asked, impressed. "My mother taught me," she replied, her focus intense. "She said a Vixmira should never rely solely on technology or other people." Smart woman. She was. The simple past tense spoke volumes. Understanding dawned in Matthew's eyes. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago." Alana's fingers danced across the controls, making minute adjustments. "There, Helios Minor, we're within communication range." Catherine immediately began transmitting their evidence to the Terran outpost, including the data on Commissioner Drav's conspiracy and the planned attack. "They've received it," she confirmed. "They're relaying to Nexus Prime and dispatching reinforcements." A violent impact rocked the ship. One of the pursuing vessels had managed to track them through the Veil. "Weapons hit!" "We're losing power to the starboard engine," the pilot reported. "Can we make it to Nexus Prime?" Matthew demanded. "Yes, but we'll be cutting it close. And we can't outrun them anymore." Alana made a swift decision. "Set course for Nexus Prime. Maximum speed. I'll handle our pursuers." Before anyone could object, she hurried to the ship's small auxiliary craft bay. Matthew followed, catching her arm as she prepared to board a one-person fighter. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Creating a diversion. The fighter's small enough to hide in the Veil's radiation pockets. I can lead them away while you get to Nexus Prime." "That's suicide, Alana." "I'm a better pilot than they are," she insisted. "And this is my family's fight too." Matthew's jaw tightened. "Then I'm coming with you. There's only room for one and you're injured." "Damn it, Alana!" His frustration broke through. "I just found you. I'm not losing you now." The raw emotion in his voice stunned her. In that moment, cultural differences fell away. The reserved Azorian heiress and the forthright human soldier reduced to their most essential truth. Two beings who had found something precious in each other. Impulsively, Alana pulled him down into a fierce kiss. Unlike their first, this one held no hesitation, only fire and promise. When they parted, she pressed her forehead to his. "Trust me," she whispered. "I'll find my way back to you." Reluctantly, he nodded. "You better. We still have a lot to talk about." With a final lingering look, Alana sealed the fighter's canopy and launched into the swirling chaos of the Veil. As predicted, the draconian vessels took the bait, peeling off to pursue the smaller craft. The Crimson Dawn slipped away, racing toward Nexus Prime with its vital intelligence. Alone in the fighter, Alana led her pursuers on a dizzying chase through the Veil's treacherous currents. Her mother's voice seemed to guide her hands, memories of long-ago lessons flowing through her muscle memory. For nearly an hour, she evaded their weapons fire, drawing them deeper into the Veil's maze. When her sensors detected the Crimson Dawn had reached safe distance, Alana executed her final gambit. Cutting power to all systems except life support, she let her craft drift into the densest part of the radiation cloud. To the Draconians' sensors, she would appear to have been destroyed or disabled. As she floated in the eerie silence waiting for her pursuers to give up the search, Alana found herself reflecting on the strange journey that had brought her here. A simple experiment in disguise had led to conspiracy, danger, and something she'd never expected to find. A connection that transcended species and social boundaries. Matthew had seen her, truly seen her, both as a beggar and as an heiress. His kindness had been genuine in both cases, and in his arms she'd felt something she'd never experienced in her privileged life: belonging. The Draconians eventually abandoned their search, heading back toward Nexus Prime. Alana waited until they were gone, then carefully reactivated her systems. Her craft had drifted farther than expected, but she could still reach Nexus Prime before the summit concluded. As she set course for home, Alana's thoughts turned to the challenges ahead. Commissioner Drav would not surrender easily. The Draconians still posed a threat. And even if they succeeded in preventing the attack, she and Matthew would have to navigate the complex reality of their different worlds. But for the first time in her life, Alana Vixmira faced uncertainty with hope rather than trepidation. Whatever came next, she would face it with honesty, and with the man who had shown her that genuine kindness was not only possible, but transformative. Nexus Prime glittered like a jewel against the velvet backdrop of space as Alana's fighter approached. The magnificent spires of the diplomatic quarter rose above the cityscape, their lights pulsing with anticipation of the historic peace summit. Security was unprecedented. The Terran outpost's warning had been received, but too late to cancel the summit without creating diplomatic incident. Instead, security forces had quietly mobilized, searching for explosives while maintaining the appearance of normalcy. Alana's family name granted her immediate clearance to land at a private dock near the summit venue. As she disembarked, still wearing her flight suit, a familiar figure waited in the shadows. "Cutting it close, aren't you?" Matthew's voice was light, but the relief in his eyes betrayed his true feelings. "Had to make an entrance," she replied, falling into his open arms without hesitation. He held her tightly, his face buried in her silver-white hair. "Don't ever do that again," he murmured against her ear. "The summit?" she asked, reluctantly pulling back. "Starting in 20 minutes. Catherine and the Terran security forces have been sweeping for explosives, but found nothing. Either our intelligence was wrong or the devices are extremely well hidden," Alana finished. "Commissioner Drav would have access to cutting-edge cloaking technology through my father's company." And they hurried toward the Grand Hall, where delegates from 17 species had gathered. Alana changed quickly into appropriate attire, a sleek blue gown that complemented her skin tone, provided by her household AI, which had been alerted to her arrival. "You clean up nice," Matthew commented, his eyes appreciative as they swept over her transformed appearance. Despite the urgency of their mission, heat bloomed between them. "You've seen me both ways now," she replied softly. "Beggar and heiress. Which do you prefer?" His answer was immediate. "I prefer you. Just you, Alana." The simple honesty of his words touched something deep within her. In that moment, she knew with absolute certainty that what they shared was real, transcending the circumstances of their meeting and the deception that had followed. They entered the Grand Hall separately, Alana through the VIP entrance befitting her status, Matthew joining his fellow peacekeepers who were strategically positioned throughout the venue. Commissioner Drav stood near the Azorian delegation, his expression betraying nothing of his treachery. The summit opened with ceremonial greetings. Alana scanned the room, searching for anything suspicious. Her gaze locked with Catherine's across the hall. The lieutenant gave a subtle shake of her head. "No explosives found." The human delegation rose to deliver their address. Alana's heart raced. If the attack wasn't coming from planted explosives, then how? Her eyes fell on the Draconian cultural attaché seated near the stage. His scaled hand rested casually on what appeared to be a ceremonial staff, but Alana recognized the subtle shimmer of a cloaking field. Without hesitation, she activated her communicator. Matthew, the draconian attaché, his staff. Across the hall, Matthew reacted instantly. As the draconian began to rise, Matthew tackled him from behind. The staff clattered to the floor, its cloaking field failing to reveal a sophisticated energy weapon. Chaos erupted. Commissioner Drav lunged for the weapon, but Alana was faster. Years of combat training took over as she executed a perfect sweeping kick that sent the commissioner sprawling. "Security breach!" Catherine's voice rang out as Terran peacekeepers converged on the scene. The draconian attaché hissed in fury, scales rippling with rage. "This changes nothing. Your pathetic alliance will crumble under its own weight." "I wouldn't bet on that," Matthew replied, restraining him with practiced efficiency. "Humans and Azorians have more in common than you think." As security forces took control of the situation, evidence of the conspiracy was presented to the assembled delegates. Commissioner Drab and his draconian accomplices were taken into custody, their plot to destabilize interspecies relations exposed for all to witness. In the aftermath, Alana found herself the center of attention, the Vixmira heiress who had helped thwart an attack alongside human peacekeepers. Reporters clamored for statements, delegates offered congratulations, and her father's business associates regarded her with newfound respect. Yet amidst the commotion, her eyes sought only one person. She found Matthew on a secluded balcony overlooking the city, away from the crowds. The setting suns of Nexus Prime painted the sky in shades of crimson and gold, casting his profile in warm light. "Quite a day," she said, joining him at the railing. "Quite a few weeks," he corrected with a smile. "From finding a beautiful beggar on the street to stopping an interplanetary incident. Not bad for a farm boy from Montana." Alana laughed, the sound light and genuine. "What happens now?" "Well, I've been offered a position as security liaison to the Azorian Diplomatic Corps." His amber eyes held hers. "Apparently someone put in a good word for me." "I might know something about that," she admitted, "but only because you're qualified." "And you?" he asked, reaching out to tuck a strand of silver-white hair behind her ear, an echo of their first night at the shelter. "I'm establishing a foundation," she said, "for the underprivileged of Nexus Prime, starting with permanent funding for Mrs. Brewer's shelter. Turning your experiment into something lasting," he observed. "I like it." "It's more than that," Alana said, moving closer to him. "What I learned, what you showed me, was that kindness isn't just about grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as offering an apple to someone who's hungry." Matthew's arms encircled her waist, drawing her against him. "Speaking of hunger," he murmured, his lips brushing her ear, "I seem to recall we have unfinished business." Heat spiraled through Alana's body at his touch. "My penthouse is nearby," she suggested, her voice husky with desire. Later, as moonlight spilled across the tangled sheets of her bed, Alana traced the contours of Matthew's face with wonder. Their joining had been everything she'd imagined and more. Tender yet passionate, a perfect melding of their different worlds. "What are you thinking?" he asked, pressing a kiss to her palm. "That I'm grateful," she replied honestly. "For your kindness that day on the street. For seeing me when no one else did. Humanity's greatest strength," he quoted with a smile. "Looking out for each other," she finished, nestling against his chest. 6 months later, the eastern quarter of Nexus Prime was transformed. The Vixmira Foundation for Cultural Exchange stood where the shelter had once been, a modern facility that provided housing, education, and medical care to those in need, regardless of species. At its heart was a garden courtyard, where Azorians, humans, and beings from across the galaxy gathered to share stories and meals. In the center stood a simple sculpture, a human hand offering an apple to an Azorian one. Alana and Matthew made their home in a modest apartment above the foundation, preferring its vibrant community to the isolated luxury of her family's tower. Their relationship had become a symbol of what was possible when beings looked beyond appearances and status, a living embodiment of the Foundation's mission. On the anniversary of their first meeting, they walked through the streets that had once been cruel to a disguised heiress. Now those same streets bustled with renewed life and purpose. "Any regrets?" Matthew asked, his fingers intertwined with hers. Alana shook her head, crimson eyes bright with contentment. "None? Though I do sometimes miss that torn brown dress." Matthew laughed, pulling her close, I'm sure we could find another one for old times' sake. As they continued their walk, Alana reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A simple experiment in disguise had led to conspiracy and danger, but ultimately to something far more precious: genuine connection, transcendent kindness, and love that bridged worlds. In the end, it wasn't wealth or status that had brought her happiness, but the simple, transformative power of being truly seen, first by a kind-hearted human stranger, and now by the man who had become her partner in all things. And it had all begun with an apple, freely given,